How many of y'all heard of dependency management or managing libraries? Yeah. You use it for just like WordPress, or is it for others? Like, what do you use it on?
Node.
Node. Okay. All right. Y'all know about Node? No. So Node is just basically a different language that you can build on. So it's a different server language, backend language, and you can also run it on your computer. And then typically there's thousands of libraries that need to be managed, and Node is a dependency management system. So typically when you see Node, you would see a thing called npm install. But that's a different thing. But which I really recommend you guys check out. But for PHP, we use Composer. So Composer's the main one for dependency management on PHP libraries. Composer is a tool for dependency management. PHP allows you to declare the libraries your project depends on, and it will manage, install, / update them for you. Dependency in software development is a piece of software that someone else has written, or also you have written, and the current project you're working on requires on that piece of software to run. So essentially what that's saying is there's a piece of the project that you're building, or the software that you're building, that you didn't write, or maybe you did, but you need it to run. You're using a specific component of it to make your project run. So, for example, you're going to use Google's API for it, and they should have some kind of PHP library that you need that you rely on, right? So in that case, he would rely on Google's API for it, or some kind of Google SDK or something like that. And Composer is a tool that will help you manage that library, but it can be more than one. So you can think of it like if you're building a house out of Legos and you have 4 walls built, and the next step is adding a roof. So if you have 4 walls set up, you can of course spend a lot of time stacking Legos piece by piece, which obviously would take a lot of time. Or you can use a pre-built roof that you built previously and place that on top of your walls. So you're just reusing something that's already built. It should be part of your workflow, part of like the thing I was saying, like never to reinvent the wheel, like that upload tool to upload multiple files. Someone's already created that. You creating it from scratch is going to take you weeks, and there's going to be bugs, and you're going to have problems when you have teams of people that built it already. So of course that adds on to having faster development. So reusing software as needed helps us develop applications at a much faster pace, since we do not want to reinvent the wheel every time for a certain piece of the project. Allows us to spend time developing, put the quotes fun part of a project versus spending time on general functionality which your project will need. So some things are fun. I wanted the course project to be fun for you guys, but it's not always going to be fun. It's going to be frustrating. So Packagist is basically a repository of all these public libraries that exist. So if you Google Packagist and go to their website, I mean, literally you can browse through thousands of libraries and packages that currently exist. So Composer reads from this library. Typically, if you have a pre-built package or you know of one, it will exist there on their website. Similar to WordPress, they have a plugin library, something like that. So I just want to say, like an example, if your project included to send emails, we would use something like Amazon, which is they have one of their core services to send emails to their platform. If you needed that to send emails to customers after they checked out or something like that, we would need their library to connect to it. And then just how it works is very simple. Basically, you would tell Composer that you depend on AWS. Like you're saying, I need this. This is what I require. Then you run the script Composer install, similar to Node, which is the npm install. And Composer does its thing. And in this example, AWS, their library, also requires other things. So they require that the PHP that's running on the server is greater than 5.5. If automatically detects it's less, it's going to throw you a warning or an error. Hey, it's not going to work. And there's Guzzle HTTP, which basically makes requests. JSON for just kind of like JSON outputs, and of course other ones. But this list is very small. This list can be very long, and I'm sure, have you looked at the npm modules directory when you're going through it? It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, especially when you accidentally copy it.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, so when you run Composer install, it's getting all these libraries that your one library needed. So that's where it adds up. So if I required not only AWS but maybe 10 other libraries, those 10 will require, each required on 20 of them or something. That list keeps adding and adding. But this stuff downloads like instantly. It's like really quick, which is really great. And then after all that happens, then you can actually use their code. So actually, like AWS is just a variable that you would set, but you can run the function send email and then put in the options like the person's email, and maybe you want to send it in a week or something. I don't know what other options AWS would have, but you can then run that function. But all the other required libraries are already pre-installed. So I wanted you guys to install Composer. So if you go to, I know there's Windows, and then do you have a laptop or what do you primarily like? Is it just on the computers here?
Well, that's why it's kind of been hard, because specifically over there,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't work for some reason.
The computer doesn't work?
The WAMP doesn't work.
Right, yeah, this one doesn't work either.
They reinstalled some new version and it's all screwed up, so my computer at home is still I can just
Got it.
pull out the laptop.
Okay. But yeah, so Composer is like one thing that you guys definitely need to learn to use. We're going to go through it, but installing it is essential on your computer. And then also, wherever you host, you would also install Composer to run it. So in Louis' example, it was in npm, but it's the same idea. So if he ran Composer install and it had thousands of files generated because it downloaded all these files from these sources that were needed, and he copied the main directory, I mean, it takes forever to copy it, right? Like the size gets too big. Also, when you commit your code, you don't commit all these little files. You basically commit just the instruction that you told right there, the first part, like tell Composer how you depend on it. That's what you commit to your code. So in your repository, all it says, I require, in this example, AWS. And if you switch computers or a teammate of yours is also going to work on the project, they would pull that change that you require AWS, and then they would then run Composer install on their computer. And then they download all those other files that are required. So in your Git repository, you should not see what those files are downloaded. So that way your files or your repository gets insanely large, or you copy it or somewhat. That's also a big thing to remember. So yeah, so if you go to the Composer website, I'm going to try to keep so they're under getting started. Where's it at? It kind of breaks it down based on what computer you use. So Macs are usually Linux, so there's OS X right there. And it also covers Windows there for you, Melody. Let's see. I think the easiest way is if you just copy this code in your terminal window. So I'm going to try that out real quick. I'm on my phone, that's fine. So I just copied and pasted it. So now it says successfully installed, and you can I can now run it exactly. So I'm just going to check if it's there, and yeah, so it's running.